Hello guys and welcome to another episode of By the Way English. My name's Alistair and in today's video we're going to be doing part 2 of famous people's names translated into Spanish. If you've watched any of the other names guessing videos before, then you already know the drill. First, I'll give a clue about the person I'm referring to. Then I'll give you the translation and interpretation of their name into Spanish. And after that, you will have a moment to think about and guess the possible answer. And please, feel free to pause the video to give yourselves more time if necessary. And finally, I will reveal the name and give a short explanation as to why I've translated it in that particular way. Are we all ready? So, first on our list is a major Hollywood actor, who, according to a number of my friends and confidants, is the sexiest man in existence. However, I personally can't get over how close together his eyes are. But hey, maybe I'm just jealous. And his name, if translated into Spanish, would be Pequeño Rey Gansito. It's Ryan Gosling. Ryan, often written Ryan with the I and not the Y, is originally an Irish surname and supposedly comes from the Irish Gaelic Rí, meaning king, plus the diminutive. And this trend of giving what would traditionally be considered surnames as first names is going to be a trend in this video. Then there's Gosling, Gansito, which is composed of goose plus ling. Ling in this case is an old diminutive suffix which we can see in other words such as duckling, as in the ugly duckling, pound sterling from star, which was supposedly in reference to the little stars on the Norman silver coins, and darling from dear, as in dear pequeño rey Gansito, why are your eyes so close together? I'm definitely not jealous. Our next American with a surname for a first name is a female singer, known for her country pop music, but that is not what her Spanish name would suggest, as Sastre Rápido. It's Taylor Swift. First, there's Taylor, which, as I mentioned, is most commonly a surname where I'm from. Taylor, the profession, however, is now spelt with an I and not a Y, and is related to the Spanish tallar, the Italian tagliare, and the Catalan tallat. You guys had to translate it, didn't you? Això no és un cortado castellà de merda, això és un tallat, collons. Swift, on the other hand, as a synonym of fast, is a word that many companies like to use to invoke the swiftness of their services. Swift coding for banking, or Swift programming by Apple. Swift is also the name for the migrating bird vencejo, probably because it flies quite fast. But it is not to be confused with the swallow, as these guys in Kenya did. So there you have it. Taylor Swift is Sastre Rápido. Next on our list is another Hollywood actor whose name comically translates to Amplio Pozo. It's Brad Pitt. Let's deal with Pitt first, as I can already sense some of you protesting, but pozo in English is well, no me engañes. And, well, yes it is. However, both Pitt and pozo ultimately come from the same Latin word, puteus, meaning a pit or a well, and I wanted to point that out. Otherwise, Pitt, one T, would most commonly be translated as fosso, fossa, or hoyo. But there is one more case where Pitt and pozo match up in the expression ser un pozo sin fondo, to be a bottomless pit. Then there's Brad, which is short for Bradley. And there are a great many other names, surnames, in English, which end with Lee. Ashley, Riley, Beverly, Berkeley, Haley, Everly, and Stanley. Could they have something in common with Bradley? Of course they do. They're all toponymic surnames, meaning, in this case, that they were given to people because of where they came from or because of where they lived. The second component, Lee, comes from the Old English Lee or leigh, meaning a clearing, un claro, and is derived from the word light. This means that Ashley refers to a clearing of ashes, Riley, a clearing of rye, Berkeley, a clearing of birches, Beverly, a clearing of beavers, Haley, a clearing of hay, Stanley, a clearing of stones, Everly, curiously, a clearing of boars, and Bradley, a clearing that was wide or broad. So there you have it. Originally Guillermo Amplio Claro Pozo, Brad Pitt later chose to be professionally known as just Amplio Pozo. And now to our final name. This man is, or was, another Hollywood actor. His first name is also traditionally a surname, however, in his defense, it's not his true name, so to speak. And his surname is neither of English nor of European origin. And the translation is Brezo Ciruela. It's the martial arts legend Bruce Lee. So let's start with Lee first. It's the anglicized version of Lee, which literally means plum or ciruela, and is apparently the second most common Chinese surname after Wang, accounting for over 7% of surnames in China. But it shouldn't be confused with the English Lee, which we've already seen means clearing. Then there's Bruce as Brezo, which is an interesting and convoluted story. We can trace the Bruce family back to probably its most famous bearer, Robert the Bruce, King of Scotland, and arguably the real, effective hero in the Scottish Wars of Independence, as opposed to William, never shouted freedom because his vocal cords were broken, Wallace. This was because it was Bruce's victory at the Battle of Bannockburn and the subsequent negotiations that were most crucial in getting England to recognise Scotland as a fully independent country, for a whole 4 years. Anyway, whilst in English he's popularly known as Robert the Bruce, this is actually a corruption of his family's name, de Bruce, which highlights his French, specifically Norman, roots. Basically, long story short, within 100 years of the Norman invasion of 1066, the Normans had married into almost all of the major families of the British Isles, as far as Scotland and even Ireland, and consequently held land everywhere. The Bruce family was one of them, who supposedly traced their roots back to the Norman town of Brie. The name Brie ultimately comes from the Gallo-Roman word brucus, which gives us bruc in Catalan and brezo in Spanish. But what is brezo, you're probably wondering? Well, it's a plant that you find all across the northern mountain ranges of Spain, the Alps, and it defines entire landscapes in the Scottish Highlands, parts of Ireland, northern England, and Wales. In English, we call it Heather, which is traditionally a girl's name, so this means that Heather Bruce, a very common name in Scotland, literally translates to Heather Heather or Brezo Brezo. But hang on, who were we talking about again? Bruce Lee, Brezo Ciruela. And that's it for today. If you've learned something, found something interesting, or even just laughed, please take a moment to think of 1, 2, 3 other people that might appreciate this channel and share it with them. It will really help with growing the channel. If you have any ideas or suggestions, don't hesitate in putting them down in the comments or messaging me at bythewayingles@gmail.com. Anyway, as always, I really hope you enjoyed the video and thank you once again for watching. I'll see you next time.